I think there's a lot of confusion right now in the sense that folks really don't. Rates went up and prices are supposed to go down. We haven't really seen that in our level here in the New England area. But what you're starting to see is the demand is tempering off a little bit. So we're really in that situation where the market's a little confused. Normally you see prices plummet, they haven't. Normally you see buyer demand plummet, hasn't. So it's really just kind of a stalemate that we've seen the last few years.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. It's 10/11/23. Well, you're going to want to hear from this person if you have any interest in real estate, in hard asset investing, any of that. This person was designated as the Wall Street Journal's #1 realtor nationwide. His name is Kyle Seyboth. Kyle, it is great to have you on the show. Hey, how did the Wall Street Journal figure out that you're the #1 realtor?
So this was done, it was in 2019, and it was done via transaction side. So in 2019, I did the most transaction sides in the entire country. And the beauty of that was, one person. I know every single one of my clients, and it worked out well.
All right. So was that mostly commercial or residential or a bit?
So when they say transaction side, that just means whether it's 1 unit or 50 units, that's one side. So that's only one side.
Right. Okay. So, hey, what's your take on the real estate market now, as long as we got an obvious expert on the line here?
Yeah, I think the real estate market is very confused. I think there's a lot of confusion right now in the sense that folks really don't. Rates went up and prices are supposed to go down. We haven't really seen that in our level here in the New England area. But what you're starting to see is the demand is tempering off a little bit. So we're really in that situation where the market's a little confused. Normally you see prices plummet, they haven't. Normally you see buyer demand plummet, hasn't. So it's really just kind of a stalemate that we've seen the last few years.
And rates, everybody's talking about rates, Federal Reserve. We got, the PPI number comes out today a little bit over what they would have liked. How big a factor is rates in this market now? If they were to cut rates, say, by a third of where they're at now, would that result in a huge push for the market, or would it be greeted with indifference?
Say that again?
I'm saying if the Federal Reserve were to start ratcheting rates back, cutting rates.
Yeah. And you start seeing rates cut, you're going to see a massive influx of buyers back into this market. It'll be insanity. It'll be complete insanity. I think if we do see that, I expect that demand goes through the roof, because people will be scared they're going to miss out again on any sort of interest rate spike that you're going to see happen.
Okay. And hey, I know we got a lot of other things to talk about, but I think the market review for somebody boots on the ground is really important, because many of you out there don't have any idea what's really happening. But we still see, like in certain states, markets like Florida, the rate hikes haven't seemed to do much other than to cut back on supply, because you got all these people with 3% mortgages who'd love to move, but are like locked into their properties now.
Correct. I think you've got, again, a lot of people that they have those super low interest rates that they had for the last few years, and they don't want to go out of those rates and lose that rate and get some higher. But at the end of the day, if it's a move you need for your family, or if it's a move you need for your well-being, or so on and so forth, it's definitely something that you should not let interest rates become the be-all and end-all. I think it's important that buyers understand and sellers understand you can always refinance down the road. And at the end of the day, you can always refinance down the road. That allows you to, decrease your rates when rates come down. If the payment and the money makes sense now, it's only going to make more sense down the road.
Right. So hopefully rates will accommodate that that strategy, but I guess you never really know. Hey, so your keys to success. Basically, I'm reading here, it says that 90% of your decisions you don't have to make anymore. How did you pull that one off?
Yeah, I mean, I delegated a lot of the past things that come across my desk on a day in and day out basis. And I think what that's done is it's allowed me to just make decisions versus having to get in the weeds and be involved in all the minutia. And I think that's been very helpful. So I think that's one of the things, is really delegating anything that's not income producing has been one of the keys to my success.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And many successful people have told me similar things, because you can't do everything yourself. And if you try, then you wind up missing opportunities because you're too busy handling the day-to-day 9-to-5 stuff.
Correct, exactly. And I think that's the part where that separates not only a leader, but a successful person, a successful person at a certain level from a person that's not as successful.
Right. So somebody looking to get into real estate now, would you tell them, forget about it, it's too dangerous, or do you take the plunge?
I would tell them that it's important that they understand why they're looking to get into real estate, and with that, right, have a good understanding of what's important to you and what is the purpose and what's your why behind it. I think that's the most important.
Right. And so obviously commercial real estate, office buildings in a state of apparently terminal decline. How do you see that market being able to be turned around at some point, or is it past the point of no return?
I think commercial real estate, depending on what segment of commercial, is certainly something that's been, impacted, specifically office. And I think they are, right now, we're at such a housing crisis that I think the move towards residential and all those commercial spaces, I think, is important. And I think that's what you're starting to see. You're starting to see folks that are converting a lot of these commercial buildings into residential.
Well, like in New York City, the older buildings, and in the Northeast, I would venture to say, the older buildings lended themselves to conversions because the proportions, etc., just made conversion very easy. Like in Manhattan's financial district, those buildings, because they weren't ultra large inside, but these modern office buildings have 120,000 square foot floors with not a lot of windows. A lot of it's close to the core. It doesn't really lend itself to conversion so much, does it?
No, it doesn't. So there's only certain buildings and certain locations that would lend to that. And I think that's another important factor there. There's some of these buildings that are the secondary, tertiary use is going to become very interesting as we go forward.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had any insight into other potential uses, because it's like nobody knows what to do with them. Do you just knock them down? They cost billions to put up.
I think other uses would be really, you kind of got to look at it almost making like an Airbnb office type / workspace where people can rent out smaller office versus having monster offices, right? So you almost consolidate. That's one option. Another option, warehouse store. I mean, there's not a ton to do with these things besides, possibly, like you said, knock them down.
Hey, and that leads to the next question of like malls. There's a contraction in the mall space. There's that mall outside of New York City and New Jersey. I think it was like going to be the largest one in the country, and they're also in a state of terminal decline. And there's really nothing to do, no way to repurpose those structures. More or less, they got to be raised and the property used for another application.
Yeah, I mean, I think malls, we're seeing it here in the Northeast as well. I mean, they were built and, during the 90s and early 2000s, they were the hot topic. But right now, these malls are, again, what I'm trying to see is converging to residential or converging to elderly housing or converging to some sort of housing that I think makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it's you see these ghost malls around the country, and the high end ones are doing better. I wouldn't say they're doing great,
Right.
but they're sustaining. And the outlet malls seem to be doing okay, but everything in the middle, even in Florida here, is getting crushed.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much done. It really have definitely started to really build that spread of, the high to the lower end, and then the middle class, or the middle part of the what's the word I'm looking for? The middle part of the retail space has really been clobbered by Amazon. I mean, you don't really have that same touching that's not needed anymore.
Yeah, Amazon and every other online retail, right?
Right.
Yeah. So there's a realignment taking place. But when it comes to residential, basically, you might move from city to city. Certain cities might be declining, but others are expanding. So that's really where the real estate business is going to be at for the foreseeable future.
Definitely, for sure.
So you mentioned housing shortage. How acute is it? How bad is it really?
It's pretty significant. It's pretty significant, and I think what you're seeing is rents are going through the roof. It's unless you have rent control underway, there's significant increases in rents, and I think what's happening there is you need to have more supply, and the demand is there, supply just isn't there. So it's just a function of how many new builds or how much saturation there is potential for in the future, and I think that's important that we figure that out. As a country, especially New England Northeast, where there's a lot of density, we definitely have a significant problem.
All right. Well, hey, so just some advice for someone getting into real estate again, just your top 3 things that you should do when you're looking at a deal, whether or not to go or not.
The advice I would give folks for real estate, if you're looking at a deal and you're looking at making a deal or making something happen, I think you just got to always look at where the market is at the time of the deal, where you think it'll be in 6 to 12 months. And if there's potential for any sort of downturn, then you've got to factor in a contingency plan. And I think that's the biggest factor that I'm seeing that people need to pay attention to. Is it 10% down? Is it 20% down? What's that number that has to make sense?
Right. Okay. Hey, what time frame you think people should be looking more short-term, intermediate than longer-term now? Or do you look longer-term to kind of like mitigate?
You got to be a long-term player right now. You got to definitely be a long-term player. I think you got to look at things and say we're at the top of the cycle. So if you're in this for the short term, I think it's going to negatively impact you. So you got to be long-term buy and hold, and you got to be able to sustain it.
Okay. Hey, what's your favorite geographical region within the country now?
I love the South. I love Florida area. I just like the weather, and I think that's it makes you happy when it's sunny. So I like to be in the sun. So
yeah, it's not sunny right now, at least where I am in Palm Beach County, but that could change in a minute. So we're not going to worry about it.
Right.
All right. Hey, well, hey, if you want to connect, how do people find you?
Right, so he's certainly on social media. You can go on Facebook, on Instagram. I'm all over that stuff. You can definitely find me there.
All right. You got a website we can click on?
Yeah, you can also go to seyboth.com.
All right. Hey, we'll put a link to that in the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Got a question for Kyle or myself? Shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. And Kyle, appreciate you coming on. Good continued luck. Hope the Wall Street Journal rediscovers you again.
They certainly will. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.